The Last of Us Part 2 is the long-awaited sequel for a game beloved by many. Is the sequel good, or is it one of those cases where the original is the best? Before we get started, I would like to first clarify that the gameplay found in this review was provided by Sony. Additionally, for those who have yet to play the first Last of Us, I highly recommend you do before reading or watching any reviews. If you played a Naughty Dog game before, then you know exactly what you're getting yourself into when it comes to The Last of Us Part 2. From a technical and graphical standpoint, The Last of Us 2 is an absolute masterpiece. The fine details that Naughty Dog have been able to push are astonishing, though it doesn't come much as a surprise considering their previous offerings. Texture quality are insane, along with the number of details found throughout the world. This also goes without pointing out the use in coloring, whereas in the original tonnage was dark and gloomy, here the full spectrum of the color wheel is presented and used perfectly to capture the right emotions. Many times throughout the campaign I found myself stopping to glare at the sheer beauty the scenes had to offer. So much so that I was using the built-in photo mode feature to take snapshots more than progressing the game. As bad as that may sound, The Last of Us 2 visuals are just so damn good, especially when playing in 4K on the PlayStation 4 Pro. The only downside to all this is that the PS4 fans really kick in, and I mean really kick in. Just in the menu alone, my console sounded like it was going to take off. Not a negative for The Last of Us 2, just something for people to keep in mind when playing through. Plus, you could always use a headset to drown out the noise of the PlayStation 4 fans. The gameplay for the most part hasn't changed a whole lot from the first game in terms of gunplay. Sure, it's more responsive and impactful, but at the core, The Last of Us 2 is a third-person shooter. This was to be expected from us since the game is targeting realism and we enjoyed it from the first game. So why fix what wasn't broken to begin with? What has changed, however, are the situations the game forces you to be in. With the whole world of The Last of Us crumbling with very few survivors left, resources have become scarce. Make you think before you perform a giving action. Would it be wise to go guns blazing against a horde of infected or humans? Or perhaps the smarter option is to quietly sneak around everything, but risk being forced into a tight spot? These are the kind of questions players will have to make as every action holds weight in the world. A returning feature is a workbench upgrade system and skill tree from the previous game. It's a bit more robust in terms of functionality and has been expanded greatly to include more thought out skills. A welcoming addition, though not a requirement for those wanting a good challenge. Speaking of being challenging, the options that The Last of Us 2 offers by far is the most I've ever seen in any game. While the difficulty levels can be cranked up to survival, the options allow some more customizable settings for the players. You can adjust resource amount, AI aggression, enemy vision cones, and so much more. And perhaps you aren't one wanting a challenge. There are options for you there to make it super easy. This is by far Naughty Dog's most accessible game that they have ever released, and come release, I highly recommend you go to check everything it has to offer for game options. The only complaint I have when it comes to gameplay is the odd decision to map dodging and running to the same button. The ability to dodge is a new feature in The Last of Us 2, but the way it is implemented really needs to be adjusted. To run in The Last of Us 2, you press and hold L1. To dodge, you are supposed to just to press it and let go. Unfortunately, that led to a few issues where I was getting outnumbered with enemies and instead of doing a dodge, my character would run, which resulted in my death in a few times. It was a bit of a learning curve, just prepare for it when you pick up The Last of Us 2. Now, the story of Last of Us 2. I honestly felt that the story was a kick to my groin, but that is mostly due to the order it gets told in. Unfortunately, we can't dive deep into the campaign itself, though I will say despite having that feeling, the campaign was pretty enjoyable overall. A number of set pieces that occur are just as jaw-dropping as some of the ones from the previous and even in the Uncharted games themselves. By the time we finished the campaign, we had spent a total of 20 hours that I felt were well worth it, despite the gnawing issues I had. This is every bit a Naughty Dog story that we have all grown to expect from the studio, though we expect there to be some rather big opinions once the game is released. As for the acting performance, all the characters felt as if they were actually alive as emotions seeped through the voices and facial expressions. All easy readable, all perfectly suited for every scenario they were in. Easy to grow attached to them since they have relatable features.
She was probably just trying to make you jealous. I would never...
Now, should you hold on to your pre-order of The Last of Us 2? If you're a hardcore fan of the series, you might be able to forgive certain story elements, others not so much. But overall, The Last of Us 2 is a good game. It sticks to its guns of aiming to be realistic, thus leaving players with mixed emotions. After all, this is a game built on the premise that there is no happiness for everyone, no matter how hard they try. This is a game that is not for the lighthearted players expecting everything to turn out good. Take that as you will, but I'm sure if the game is on your radar, you will absolutely love it. Thanks for watching my review of The Last of Us 2. If you liked it, be sure to subscribe, And stay tuned for June 18th where my walkthrough and gameplay footage will be going up in 4K quality.